Oh my goodness, this is going to be the spiciest, hottest deep dive we have ever produced.
Think you're right about that one. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome back to Sip&Talk.
Welcome back, Sip&Talkers. You are going to want to buckle up for this one.
So this is a special one because our producer, Ethan, he ran an audience survey for us.
He did.
And we found out something really interesting. You all don't just want the dry, deep analysis of international news.
Nope.
You also want a little bit of the high-stakes international gossip. So today, we are tackling a heavyweight topic.
That's right. And listen up, because this is a specially produced, humorous, and entertaining survey. Our subject today is the top 5 most controversial authoritarian regimes ranked by our very own International Annoyance Index.
We're calling it the Authoritarian Unfavorite Index.
I love that.
So before we go any further, we have to put up the biggest, loudest disclaimer we have ever issued on this show.
A giant, flashing neon sign.
Exactly. Please do not take this personally. This ranking is purely for entertainment. It's meant to be a conversation starter for, when you're grabbing drinks with friends this weekend.
This is a Friday night thought experiment. This is not a UN Security Council report.
No, definitely not. But you can guarantee that while the ranking itself is, subjective and a bit funny, the data and the events we're citing are 100% real, right?
Oh, absolutely. While the final ranking is, our take, we guarantee all the international events, the human rights reports, the sanction data we're using to analyze this, it's all verified. We're talking Bloomberg, the New York Times, the Financial Times, the Economist. The facts are absolutely real.
So we're using real-world facts to tell a highly entertaining, maybe slightly darkly humorous story.
Exactly. We are not advocating for or against anyone. We're just, taking the world's emotional thermometer on these regimes.
Precisely. We're just putting a little black humor filter over some very serious international affairs.
Okay, so before we jump in, we have to clarify. What exactly is this annoyance index? Like, what are we even measuring?
Okay, let's break it down. It's actually pretty simple. We looked at 4 main things.
Right.
First, just overall international negative opinion. The global vibe check, if you will.
The vibe check. I like it.
Then the frequency and, the severity of diplomatic friction.
Yeah.
How often are they picking fights?
Okay, makes sense.
Third, their human rights track record, which is obviously a huge one. And fourth, the general why everyone wants to block you on social media factor.
So it's not just about who's the most powerful or the biggest threat?
No, not at all. It's about which regimes consistently make the rest of the world, collectively frown and roll their eyes the most.
I love it. And what's wild is that when we looked at these top 5, they all share 3 key features. It's like their ticket into the global nuisance club.
Right. And the first one is the most obvious. Systematic human rights violations. I mean, we're talking about everything from intense censorship to oppressing specific groups of people. If you treat your own citizens that way, the world is going to be suspicious.
Naturally. Okay, what's number 2?
The second is a substantive threat to regional or global security. And we don't mean small border spats. We mean building nuclear weapons, invading your neighbors, funding proxy wars that just destabilize entire regions. It's like the neighbor who's building a bomb in their garage.
You're not going to invite them to the block party.
You are not. And the third one, which I think is key to the annoyance part, is their foreign behavior that just actively irritates the world.
So less about hard power, more about style.
Exactly. It's that coercive diplomacy, the economic blackmail, undermining international institutions. They aren't just bad. They're actively annoying. And that's the difference maker in this ranking.
Okay, so human rights, security threats, and a bad attitude. Got it. Let's get to the countdown.
Let's do it. Starting off at number 5. The annoyance score here is a 7.9, which is the lowest of the 5, but still pretty high.
And 5th place goes to Syria, the Assad regime.
Yeah, Syria is just this prolonged, grinding tragedy. And the number one reason it's on this list is that decade-long civil war.
And the massive humanitarian crisis that came with it. I mean, the whole world has just been watching this unfold, feeling completely helpless.
Totally. And then you add in the controversy around the alleged use of chemical weapons.
Right, which is just a massive international red line. That led to just waves of condemnation from the UN, from everyone.
It did. And Syria's annoyance factor now isn't really about its global power. It's more that it symbolizes this catastrophic failure of international diplomacy.
It's a wound that just won't close.
Exactly. Which brings us to the funny take on this.
Yes?
The UN apparently views the Syria file like a stack of paperwork on a desk that's so high it's touching the ceiling. You literally have no idea where to even start.
That feels painfully accurate. It's a chronic problem that the world can't solve but also can't ignore.
A chronic diplomatic ailment.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, that's a pretty dark start. Moving on to number 4 with an annoyance score of 8.2.
And this one goes to Iran, the theocratic regime.
Iran is so complex. You've got the intense internal control, but also this massive external reach.
You do. And internally, the big flashpoint has been the suppression of women's rights, especially around the mandatory hijab law and the huge protests that came from that.
That got so much international attention.
A ton. But what really puts gas on the fire is their geopolitical gain.
Their support for proxy groups all over the Middle East.
Right. Think Hezbollah, the Houthis, various groups in Iraq. It makes the whole region feel like a permanent, high-stakes, geopolitical final exam.
Every new conflict, you can almost always trace a line back to Tehran.
You can. It destabilizes everything. Shipping lanes, energy security, you name it.
And we can't forget the never-ending nuclear drama.
Oh, the JCPOA negotiations.
It's like the world's worst, most disastrous failed group counseling session.
It really is. It always falls apart at the last minute, and the world is just left holding its breath about their nuclear capabilities.
Which is why the joke about it is so perfect. The scariest phrase at any Middle East peace conference is, Iran has an opinion.
They just thrive on that instability. So they're on the list because they combine that internal authoritarianism with all this external disruption, a major, major headache.
Okay, let's take a quick breath here. We're about to hit the top 3.
And this is where things get serious. The annoyance scores for these next 3 all blast past 8.8. These aren't just regional troublemakers anymore.
No, these are regimes that pose systemic, global challenges to the world order. Their actions impact everything.
So coming in at 3rd place with a very high score of 8.8, it is North Korea, the Kim dynasty.
North Korea. Our analysis called it a live fossil-level threat, which is just perfect.
It is. It's a nuclear, hereditary, super isolated regime. It's like something from another century, which makes it terrifyingly unpredictable.
And what's driving that score up so high? The missile tests.
The constant provocative missile tests. They violate so many UN resolutions, and they kept the whole region, especially South Korea and Japan, on edge, like 247.
You're testing everything, too. ICBMs, solid fuel rockets. It's a serious threat.
It is. And then you have the internal situation, the total information blockade, the severe systemic human rights abuses.
The UN is constantly releasing reports on it. It's a military threat built on top of just a moral black hole.
Which is why their missile tests really are like fireworks where nobody wants a ticket.
It's their way of saying, hey, look at me, I exist, and forcing the world to pay attention.
It's the teenage neighbor with unlimited firecrackers. The fact that this nuclear family has lasted so long, operating so far outside of modern norms, is what makes them such a high-score nuisance.
The sheer unpredictability is the key.
Right. Okay, next up, our second-place finisher, scoring a massive 9.0.
And this one is unquestionably Russia, the Putin regime.
Russia's spot here is really driven by one single overwhelming event, the 2022 full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah, that changed everything. The international community sees that as the most severe breach of international law in modern history.
It directly violates the UN Charter's most basic principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. It shattered the security setup in Europe that had existed for decades.
And that sent their international annoyance rating just through the roof.
Absolutely. And you also have to factor in the internal repression.
The crackdowns on dissent, manipulating elections, total media control.
Right. And what was the immediate result of the invasion? The ultimate no-candy punishment.
International sanctions.
The biggest, most complex package of sanctions in history. Kicking banks out of SWIFT, oil price caps, freezing hundreds of billions in assets. It was a massive, coordinated response.
And the humorous take on this one is just spot on. Their diplomatic style is like a bear hug that makes half of Europe scream.
It is. They crash the party, knock down a wall, and then blame the carpet for being uneven.
And then demand you pay for their scraped knuckles. It was all the West's fault.
Every single time. It's just this super aggressive style that creates so much friction.
All right, Sip&Talkers, this is the moment. The number 1 spot, with the highest score of all, a 9.5.
It is China, the CCP regime.
And China's rating is so high, but for really unique reasons that we need to get into.
We do. But first, the basics. We're talking about authoritarian rule, the huge human rights issues in Xinjiang, the crackdown in Hong Kong, the constant pressure on Taiwan, and the friction in the South China Sea.
And the public opinion data is just staggering. In a country like Japan, 86% of people have an unfavorable view of China.
Wow.
In Australia, it's 82%. This isn't just a Western thing. The annoyance is regional, it's deep, and it's widespread.
Which brings us to that initial humorous take, which I think just captures the whole problem perfectly.
Say it.
Their firewall doesn't just block websites, it blocks the world's patience.
And that is exactly what we need to dive into now. It's not just their threat level, it's their style.
Okay, so we've done the countdown. And in our survey, so many of you pointed out something really, really sharp.
What was that?
That, compared to the old school bad guys, Russia and North Korea, what sends China's annoyance factor through the roof is its specific diplomatic style.
Yes. They might not be number one in every category, but they are absolutely the regime that gets the most eye rolls.
100%. And I have to say, if you really want to understand why they're so difficult to like, you have to do one thing.
What's that?
Go listen to a few minutes of a Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs routine press conference.
You don't even have to understand the policy details. You just need to feel the vibe.
Exactly. That tone of the entire world owes me an explanation. That attitude of only my sovereignty is legitimate.
And my personal favorite, the charm of I accuse the world of everything, but anything I'm accused of is off limits for discussion.
We're calling it the international PR disaster. And that's what we need to explore right now on Sip&Talk. Why China has earned the title of eye roll champion.
So we're going to drill down into two core problems, the super double standard and the guidance habit.
Let's start with the first one, the super double standard, or as we like to call it, the telescopic ruler of diplomacy.
Okay, I love that name. Break it down.
So when you look at how China applies diplomatic principles, it's incredibly selective. It's situational ethics on a global scale.
Right. So when they're talking about their own core interests, Xinjiang, Hong Kong, Taiwan, the principle of sovereignty is like a 10-foot pole.
Exactly. It's an impenetrable wall. Any comment from the outside is immediately interference in China's internal affairs. End of discussion.
But then when it's their economic interests at stake, that ruler suddenly shrinks.
It shrinks dramatically. They use their economic power to pressure companies to take political stances on Taiwan. They make demands about the South China Sea. Isn't that also interfering in someone else's business?
That is the core question, isn't it? And to see this in action, we have a perfect, very recent case study.
Let's hear it.
Taiwan's restriction of the Xiaohongshu social media app, also known as Little Red Book.
Okay, so give us the facts. What actually happened?
The facts are super clear. In early 2025, the Taiwanese government put a 1-year usage restriction on the app.
And why?
Their reasoning was based on hard data. They had 1,706 documented fraud cases tied to the app, resulting in almost $2.5 million in losses. Plus, major security issues they had flagged that were never fixed.
So it sounds like a pretty standard regulatory action based on consumer protection and security.
Exactly. A technical anti-crime measure. So, what was Beijing's official reaction?
This is the good part.
China's Taiwan Affairs Office slammed the ban as anti-democratic and an act of stripping the public of its right to know.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let's do a massive hypocrisy highlight here.
Please do.
We're talking about China, the country with the Great Firewall, the country that blocks Facebook, Instagram, X, Google, basically the entire global internet.
Forcing their own citizens to use VPNs to climb the wall just to see what the rest of the world is talking about.
Right. They run the most intense censorship system on Earth. And they have the nerve to call another democratic government's technical regulation of a single app anti-democratic.
It's the definition of a double standard. It's breathtaking.
The analogy we found for this is just perfect.
I love this one.
It's world. You're building islands in the South China Sea. China. That's our internal affairs. Okay, then we're banning your app because of fraud. No. Pointed at is a crime.
That is it in a nutshell. And you see the same hypocrisy with trade sanctions.
Oh, yeah. They will strongly condemn any unilateral sanctions from the West, say, on Russia or Iran.
But at the same time, they use what they call punitive trade measures, which is just a sanction with a different name, against countries like Australia or Lithuania if they do something China doesn't like.
So sanctions are bad, but only when other people do them.
Pretty much. And this is what makes them feel so unpredictable and aggressive to other countries. It completely erodes any trust.
Which brings us to the second core problem, the guidance habit, or the life coach government.
I think this might be the biggest source of the eye rolling. It's this habit of acting like the class monitor bully.
Explain that.
They're constantly trying to manage or guide or just plain dictate the political and moral positions of other governments, of big companies, of individual politicians.
And this is where the contrast with our number 2 and 3 finishers is so sharp. Let's ask the question. Why did North Korea and Russia lose to China on the annoyance index?
Okay, so North Korea is the isolated hothead. They're dangerous, for sure, but they mostly mind their own business when it comes to values.
Right. They launch missiles, but they're not trying to lecture the world on political correctness.
The feeling is, he's terrifying, but at least he's not trying to manage my company's PR statement every day.
Exactly. Now, what about Russia?
Russia is the regional aggressor. Their conflict is mostly military and geopolitical. They aren't trying to export their values in the same pervasive way.
So, the general feeling is, he causes huge problems with war, but at least he's not constantly telling you how to live your life or run your business.
But China's style is both action and words. It's not enough to just use economic leverage. First, they have to smear you on social media for hurting the feelings of the Chinese people.
Then, they block your products at customs. And then, the final step.
They demand a public, usually humiliating statement supporting the one China policy just to get back to business.
It's what our analysis calls full-spectrum guidance. They turn every dispute, whether it's trade or politics, into this highly charged ideological battle.
And it forces diplomats from other countries to just think, look, we have our own government. We don't need you to be our life coach.
Okay, so let's play a little game, the logic bomb game. What would happen if China actually had to apply its own diplomatic principles to its own actions?
Oh, this is good. So let's start with their favorite line. Strongly condemn any behavior damaging the sovereignty of other nations.
Okay. If you apply that to their island building in the South China Sea or their border disputes with India, shouldn't they be condemning themselves?
Logically, yes. Okay, what about we oppose all forms of unilateral sanctions?
But then they hit Australia with trade punishments. So by their own logic, their own foreign ministry should be calling on themselves to immediately lift all sanctions.
It's absurd. And the last one. Other nations must not interfere in China's internal affairs.
Yet they pressure foreign companies about their political statements and criticize Taiwan's internal decision to ban an app.
Which is flagrant interference.
So what's the conclusion?
Yeah.
If China had to actually follow its own rules, it would basically sanction itself into diplomatic paralysis.
The Wolf Warrior spokespeople would have to arrest themselves for crimes against logic.
And that's the real source of the annoyance. It's the unequal application of power and principle. You're demanding global compliance, but you refuse to comply with any rules yourself.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on why China gets the top spot for friction. But this is Sip&Talk, and we can't just leave it there.
No, we have to be responsible. International politics is never that simple. China is the world's second biggest economy. It can't all be negative.
It's time for our balance correction. Or, as we're calling it, the ice cream after the hot pot moment.
I love that. So, despite all the diplomatic friction, there are some really significant, positive global contributions from China that often get overlooked.
And this isn't about whitewashing. It's about seeing the full, complicated picture.
Exactly. So let's run through 5 key areas where China is getting props from major global institutions.
First up, and this one is almost impossible to argue with, is their global leadership in clean energy.
The numbers here are just mind-blowing. Between 2024 and 2025, China invested something like $1.9 trillion in clean technology.
That's a staggering amount of money.
It is. And it means they produce about 80% of the world's solar panels and around 7% of the world's EVs.
So the impact is huge. They're basically the king of the entire energy transition supply chain.
Which means they're responsible for a huge chunk, maybe 10% or more of global carbon reduction, just through sheer volume. You might hate their foreign policy, but you're probably relying on their green tech to meet your climate goals.
It's a massive contradiction. You criticize them one minute and the next you're thinking, thank God for those cheap solar panels.
It's the globalized reality we live in. Okay, second area, China as a persistent economic growth engine.
Their GDP growth is still projected to be around 4.8 to 5%.
And that's so important because it means China is contributing almost 30% of all global economic growth. The World Bank calls them an economic anchor for a reason.
They stabilize supply chains. They help other countries recover. Their domestic market is just too big to ignore.
And you can't overlook their success in poverty alleviation. They lifted over 80 million people out of extreme poverty. That is a massive historic achievement.
It is a huge development milestone. Okay, what's number 3?
Their incredible leap in the Global Innovation Index.
Right. They're in the top 10 now. The whole narrative is shifting from copying to innovating.
Completely, especially in really advanced fields like AI and quantum computing. The conversation is no longer about Chinese knockoffs. It's about Chinese breakthroughs.
Okay, 4th is their Global Development Initiative, or GDI.
This now covers over 82 nations. It's all about poverty relief, infrastructure, building digital economies.
And while a lot of Western media talks about the debt trap narrative,
for the countries on the receiving end, the benefits are very real. They're getting new highways, new railways, better 5G coverage. It provides a tangible alternative to Western aid.
And finally, number 5, and this one is really relevant to the whole annoyance thing, the 2025 diplomatic thaw between China and the U.S.
Yeah, those high-level phone calls and agreements at APEC really did help. They reduced trade tensions and stabilized supply chains that were a mess after the tariff wars.
So it proves that dialogue is possible. We don't have to be stuck in constant conflict.
Exactly. So, to sum up the balancing act, the annoyance index is high, mostly due to their abrasive style. But their economic power and green tech leadership are like these invisible global stabilizers.
It really is like eating a Szechuan hot pot. It makes you sweat, maybe brings a tear to your eye, but you can't deny that it's packed with nourishment.
That's a perfect way to put it. International relations are never just good or bad. It's always a complex mix.
All right, let's wrap this up. We need to say one more time that this ranking was for entertainment. It was based on public sentiment and media reports.
Absolutely. We are not here to criticize or discriminate against any nation or any people. Our job is just to analyze the data and the sentiment that's out there.
Knowledge is neutral. What you do with it requires your own critical thinking.
For sure.
Yeah.
Global attitudes are always going to be different depending on where you are and what your interests are.
Okay, but this is where it gets really interesting, Sip&Talkers. Our whole unfavorite index thing, it leads to a really profound thought.
I think I know where you're going with this.
In our super-connected modern world, being the biggest annoyance might actually get you more negative attention and cause more long-term friction than just being the biggest threat.
That is such a great point. I mean, think about it. North Korea's nuclear program is terrifying, but is also distant for most people.
Right.
But China's double-standard diplomacy, that's something that is actively trying to coach your company, manage your government, and control the apps on your phone every single day.
So here's the final question for everyone to think about. Which problem is actually harder to fix? A quantifiable, isolated nuclear program that you can, at least in theory, negotiate over?
Or a deeply entrenched diplomatic arrogance and a pervasive double standard that infects every single global interaction?
That is the question we are leaving you with. It's a reminder that in today's world, soft power and diplomatic style are just as important as tanks and missiles.
Well said. All right, Sip&Talkers, thank you so much for joining us for this unique blend of humor, facts, and global gossip.
We had a lot of fun with this one. If you enjoy this kind of deep analysis with a relaxed conversational vibe, please be sure to subscribe to our show, Sip&Talk.
And don't forget to check out our good friend Mickey's YouTube channel. It's called Mickey to Life.
He's got so many fun memes, incredible travel vlogs, and it is the perfect break you deserve after all this serious geopolitical talk.
It really is. We'll catch you all next time.
Bye, everyone.